Hi, James here from Adventure Bike Rider, and welcome to this episode of the ABR Garage. I'm joined in the garage today by Adventure Bike Rider's Bryn Davis. Welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing? You glad to be back in the garage?
I am indeed. Yeah, it's great. It's great to be back.
You're always a welcome guest.
Thank you.
Here we go. Now, Bryn, you've been busy behind the scenes at ABR recently, producing what will make the subject matter for this podcast, actually, because this episode is dedicated to riding in the Alps. And we took inspiration for that subject matter for a feature that Bryn wrote in the latest issue of Adventure Bike Rider magazine. Or if you're listening to this podcast or watching it in a year or so's time, that's issue 62 of ABR magazine. But in short, Bryn, you created 3 incredible day routes through the Alps, taking in the best of the mountains for people to download, put waypoints in their sat-navs or look at the map and head off on tour. Absolutely.
Yeah, so the basis of it was we were approached by, we do a lot of work with TomTom, and we decided to team up with those guys and create these 3 incredible day rides in the Alps that can be, added on to your trip to the Alps individually or linked up together to make this sensational week-long ride.
Yeah, and it really is a superb feature. Great, great images. But the joy of it is that you can just take the GPX route, download it into your TomTom, and head off. But before we get into that, and before we start talking about the Alps and the inspiration for that feature, we thought we'd take a look at some of the comments you guys left us on the last episode of the ABR Garage, which was titled, "Can any bike be an adventure bike?" And it caused quite a lot of conversation, shall we say.
It did, yeah, not least between the 3 of us in the office, but yeah, in the comments. And I think when you go online and there's always seems to be a bit of controversy about what makes an adventure bike. Standard retort of, oh, that's not an adventure bike, or I had an adventure on it, therefore it is an adventure bike. We've got different opinions on what makes an adventure bike, and I think that showed through the comments.
We do, and I'm going to have to ask you to Touch ID your iPad with the comments on.
There we go.
Good stuff. Okay, so the first one is from, I pronounce this correctly, Kerno Bullen. He said, "Great video, guys." Thanks very much, Kerno. I have to agree with something Bryn said. Oh, what a shame. It really depends where you're going to use the bike the majority of the time. I ride a 1250 GS Rally and 90% of my riding is on the road, but I do like to do a few green lanes here and there. I also commute with the bike to London from Kent, and the GS just ticks all the boxes. Now, I picked this comment because I think part of our conversation was, well, what adventure bike you want kind of depends on what you use it for. And this kind of summed up what probably most GSs are used for, do you think?
100%. Yeah? Yeah, definitely. I think in the last episode I said, let's look at the reality of the situation of, I would go as far as to say probably 99% of adventure bikes don't see dirt in their life.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to go off road to have an adventure in my book.
Absolutely not. And for the vast majority of people, they're going to be used day to day, commuting, occasional green laning, and to me, that's basically what an adventure bike, the basis of an adventure bike is going to be about.
And that GS Sunday rides, the odd summer tour, perfect.
Great choice of a bike as well. I was looking on Auto Trader last week about buying one, but just a bit out of my budget.
Yeah, because you had one on long-term loan, didn't you, from BMW last year? And I know you were basically crying your eyes out when you had to get it back after.
Yeah, stroking it, tears running down months. It.
Yeah, beautiful bike, beautiful bike. But no, thanks, Kerno. So the next comment is from Nick Andrews. And he says, now Nick seems like a very wise guy, because he says, as for the discussion on what is an adventure bike, I 100% agree with James. Nice. In the context the context was about the genre called adventure bikes not having an adventure. So let's be honest, an adventure can be done on anything. You don't have to have 2 wheels. So nice work for agreeing with me, Nick. We always like those comments, and that's probably why it got read out. But no, I totally agree. Now, I think last week I was saying that I don't think any bike is an adventure bike. Yeah. I think I certainly disagreed with Ollie, who works with us, maybe yourself.
I think you disagree with me as well.
Yeah, in that I think an adventure bike is a type of bike. It's a marketing term made up by the manufacturers to sell certain types of bike. But I do believe you can have an adventure on any bike. And I 100% agree with Nick that you don't even have to have two wheels to have an adventure. You know, you've climbed up the side of various mountains and whatnot, and haven't done it on two wheels, haven't you? So, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. I 100% agree that you don't have to have a bike to have an adventure. Yeah, that's obvious. But let me ask you this, James: is a baguette a sandwich?
Is a baguette a sandwich? I don't see any relevance in that at all.
It's not called a sandwich, but it is a sandwich.
No, it's a baguette.
Yeah, but it's still a sandwich.
Is Nick Sanders' sports bike that he went around the world on? If you went into a showroom, would that be with the adventure bikes?
Depends who you are.
Depends on the dealership. All right. Well, we could go into this for another hour and a half, which I think was the longest podcast we've ever done. But there's just one more comment I wanted to speak about, because I think this is, a really good comment, and it's from Don Loden. Don said, "Great debate on the subject." Cheers, Don. I guess it could roll on for a while, which is good. But his comment is on the power and size, is that from the perspective of a weakening 5 foot 8 inch tall 70-year-old, when I see bike specs with a 910 millimeter seat height or a weight of more than 220 kilograms and power of 160 brake horsepower, I'm immediately turned off. I've ridden bikes on and off road for over 60 years and continue to carry on for as long as I can still hold one up, even if it's a Honda step through. Perhaps your future bike reviews could put a person like myself, put someone on a bike and get their perspective. Which I thought was a really nice comment, and kind of tapped into something that whenever I'm writing a bike review, I actually always keep in mind, in that not everyone is the same beautiful form, size and shape that I am. In that, people of all different shapes and sizes ride bikes.
They do. And I think it's important that adventure bike manufacturers sort of remember who their core demographic is, which is the aging male.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's older gents with a bit of money who can afford to buy them. And, I've written reviews in the past where I talk a lot about the seat height, particularly the KTM 1190, which was just ridiculously tall. And for me, 6'2", it's not such an issue. But I put myself in the shoes of a 5'8", 70-year-old fella, and I could definitely see why that would be enough to put you off buying a bike. And it's a big thing for say my girlfriend Naomi. She was trying to learn to ride a bike a couple of years back, went horribly wrong. But when she was looking at which adventure bikes she could buy, she was very limited to, I think, she sat on a few at Motorcycle Live, and the only one that kind of suited her size and stature was the Royal Enfield Himalayan.
Yeah.
And that's not everyone's cup of tea. So
No, but and I think you're right. And even talking between us, I'm like relatively fit, 40-year-old, 6-foot guy. But I know when we're talking about bikes and often arguing about bikes in the office, you come from a very different perspective to me, in that you're a bigger guy, you work out more, you beautiful hulk of a man, and actually kind of, lifting, a big heavy adventure bike or muscling it through different areas, you don't really think twice about something that I probably would. And I have done in the past when we've been riding, which is why I tend to gravitate towards those mid-size kind of, 890 Adventures, Tiger 900s, rather than your Multistrada Enduros that you adore and love.
So that kind of highlights a very good point of, really, we're not going to please everyone. You can't please everyone with a singular review or a bike. You can't make a bike that's going to appeal to everyone of all shapes and sizes. You can't write a review from everyone's perspective. No,
although I guess instead of Don said there, kind of perhaps we could put someone from his demographic onto a bike and the bike review. I think the answer is going to be no, because there's so many different types of people and ages and sizes that to put on the bikes. But what I think we do is try and envisage, and as much as possible, what this bike will be like for different people of different size, shapes, ages, strengths, and so forth. Yeah,
and it's worth mentioning that, and I'm sorry if this offends you, Julian, but Julian, our bike tester,
Julian Chalice,
the
man, the one and only.
Yeah, he's not the tallest of folks, and I'd say all of his reviews are from that that initial perspective of I don't know how tall he is. He's definitely under 6 foot, isn't he?
Well, do you know what?
I wouldn't want to take a guess.
What he lacks in stature, he makes up in status.
He definitely
really
does. He definitely does. But also, Alan, when he writes reviews, he's pushing 62, 63 now, so he's getting on a bit as well.
That's Alan, the owner and founder of Venture Bike Rider.
Yeah, who won't take kindly to me calling him old, but
There we go. So we will move on quickly there before Bryn never appears on the ABR Garage again. But yeah, no, thanks very much for your comments. And please do leave comments, opinions, thoughts at the bottom of this video as well. And we'll pick our favourites and read them out next time. So yeah, I think it's about time we get on with talking about riding the Alps.
I think so.
So, Bryn, the Alps.
The Alps.
Both of us have been there. We both love it on our bikes. So I guess the question to ask before we get into the routes is, why is the Alps such a popular destination for bikers?
It's a good question.
It is. That's why I asked it.
You're good at asking these questions, but I think anyone who's been to the Alps will be able to answer that question easily, because it's just. There's no word. It's just sensational. Yeah, it's genuinely got something for everyone. And couple that with the fact that it's so close to the UK. I mean, a day's ride away. Well, maybe 2 days if you're fancy stuff.
Depends how fast you ride and how long you want to ride. Yeah,
it's accessible for us. It's easy to reach. But the most important thing is it's just such a stunning landscape that you won't be able to find anywhere in the UK. These tall, dramatic mountains with perfect tarmac wriggling around and through and over them. You use the word playground in the intro, and I think that sums it up. It is a motorcycling playground.
Yeah, I remember learning to ride. I cut my teeth riding through the city streets of London. I used to commute to work and actually thank the Lord and whoever is in charge that I got to work safely and was still alive, because I used to crap myself every day on the way.
Yes.
But I survived it. But all the time I was thinking, no, I'm brushing up my skills, because the natural progression was, after taking my test, was to travel abroad on tour, but go to the Alps. That was just it was the place to go. And it seems to be kind of a stepping stone for adventure biking, doesn't it? You'll learn in the UK, you'll do some routes around here, and maybe pop up to Scotland, and then you head over to Europe, and I guess the Alps or northern Spain, but one of the two is kind of the place to go, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right. There is a progression from UK to the Alps, and the Alps for many people would be the ultimate end goal of where they want to ride their bike. People have aspirations of going around the world and stuff like that, but not everyone. And for a lot of people to say that they've been and ridden amongst the highest mountains of Europe, it sounds quite adventurous in itself.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, going from the streets of London to that the Alps would seem quite tame to the streets of London, I imagine.
Yeah, but, the streets are they're more of a jungle than a mountain paradise. But I remember the first time I went there, and you're right, I was just so proud of myself for riding up these incredible snaking mountain passes. And I think working for ABR and having done a bit of bike travel myself, I've never ridden around the world or anything like that, but working for ABR and hearing about all these epic adventures around the world, I guess can make you think, oh, well, the Alps is just on our doorstep, sort of, so it's not that big a deal. But actually, for me, it's one of the greatest motorcycling destinations in the world. I can't think of too many places, I can't think of anywhere I've been to rival the mountain riding for just amazing tarmac passes than the Alps.
I think you're absolutely right. Because, there's places that are further afield to go. There's more dramatic locations on Earth. There's more adventurous places. But there's nowhere that quite brings it all together in such a perfect sort of synergy as it does in the Alps. You've got really tall, dramatic, impressive, show-stopping mountains.
Yep.
You've got these pristine mountain passes, and even the ones that aren't on the mainstream sort of go and ride lists, they're all just sensational. you go to the Alps, you take any road that goes over a mountain, and you're bound to have a blast riding it.
Yeah.
But in between that, you've got some fantastic towns and cities to stop at. There's great nightlife in a lot of them. You know, these ski resorts that are absolutely bouncing in winter are really nice places to stay in the summer. And yeah, the infrastructure there is part of it. You know, it maybe takes away from part of the adventure, being able to get fuel wherever you want, but you know, I quite like being able to get fuel.
Yeah, I kind of like fuel. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. I wouldn't say that takes away.
So I think to me, that's the reason why the Alps is because it is such a popular destination.
Yeah, and also it's so condensed. Like I can't think of anywhere else in the world, and you know, there's lots of places I haven't been yet, where you've got so many cracking mountain passes so close together. Correct me if I'm wrong. You know, you've ridden in parts of the world that I haven't, but you know, I spent a year or two ago. I spent some time in Thailand riding around, and I'd probably say the roads rival the Alps for just being incredibly twisty, absurdly so much fun. But they didn't have that glorious mountainous scenery, and they weren't all so close together.
Yeah.
And it really is. Yeah, playground's the word for it, isn't it?
It is, and you know, it is so condensed because there's so much life around the Alps.
Yeah.
There's so many cities, there's so many towns, there's so many villages, and they all need access. So that's why there's so many roads going up and over the Alps and round these big-ass mountains that you don't usually find in more sparser populated areas. So I think back to riding in the USA, going through Utah and Colorado and California, you know, the mountains there are bloody cool. And they're awesome, and the roads are sensational, but they don't quite have the same dramatic appeal as the Alps.
There's something fresh about the air as well. I know it's cliche because the air's the air, but there's something about being on those mountain tops.
There is, and it's the European sort of culture as well. It's cool, it's relaxed, it's, you know, you get a nice baguette. You
well, easily pleased.
Yeah, and, you know, I'd love to ride, I've never ridden in the Himalayas, but I'd love to ride there. Yeah. I imagine there's probably very few places in the earth that rival the Himalayas for dramatic mountain scenery. But looking at pictures of the roads, I'm sure you're going to have more fun on the pristine tarmac of the Alps if that's what the sort of riding you're after.
Yeah, I guess it depends the sort of rider you are, isn't it?
Exactly.
But yeah, and I think you're right there about places to stay as well, because I've always had so much fun camping, staying in hotels, whatever. And I've met some incredible riders. And that's another thing about visiting the Alps to me, that it is a regular pilgrimage for a lot of riders. But you make friends so easily. You know, I remember staying in a campsite. My regular stop off on the way down there is Chamonix. I tend to kind of hoon it down, stop in Chamonix. There's a couple of nice campsites there.
Really good burgers there.
Good burgers.
Yeah, mountain burgers.
I had the most amazing curry, but I didn't have the mountain burger. Yeah, but yeah, stayed in a campsite, and sadly now they've actually converted this campsite into like lodges only. I'm guessing because it makes more money, so you know, fair enough. But you know, had a cracking couple of days just hanging out, riding with a Dutch couple. Who were just lovely, lovely people, Koos and Monique. And we only met them for 2 nights, and we're still friends on Facebook. We still kind of exchange messages. And that for me is part of going to the Alps as well, is just meeting so many bikers from different walks of life and different countries and really enjoying it.
I think 100%. I don't share that experience because I've never met anyone.
You didn't meet friends. Oh, you didn't make friends. God damn it.
But 100%. You know, how many countries are there? There's France, Italy, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, Slovenia. All 6 countries are there sharing the Alps together. You know, further afield in Europe, coming to the Alps, it's their base as well. Everyone it's a melting pot of riders.
It is. It's great fun. So we've both been lucky enough to visit the Alps on motorbikes multiple times, and it's great fun. So, do you have an abiding memory from your travels there?
I've got a few.
No, I asked for one.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to be selective here, and it's going to be quite hard.
Or be brief and give me lots.
No, I'll go for riding the Splugen. I don't know how to pronounce it. The Splugen Pass.
You should have asked a local and spoke to people while you were there. Maybe who knows? You know.
The Splugen Pass on the border of Switzerland and Italy.
Yeah.
Just very briefly, just purely because of how incredible that road is from a perspective of how on earth did they build that. This is so fun to ride. But probably my favourite memory was when I went over to the Alps. It was my first time riding in the Alps, and I went over with my dad. I was riding the V-Strom 650 and he was on the Tenere 660. And we'd gone over to a trade show in Germany for Adventure Travel Magazine, which is now Wired for Adventure, and then extended our trip by, I think, a week to go and ride through the Alps and get my first taste of mountain riding. On the first day getting into the Alps, I came off my bike.
It's not a great memory, I'm going to have to say, but
it was a baptism of fire into mountain riding.
Yeah.
Went round a hairpin.
Which you failed miserably.
Yeah, but failed, and went round a hairpin. There was oil on the ground. I was quite a new rider, so I didn't really know that I was supposed to be looking for things, which sounds a bit dumb, but I'm sure we've all done it. Went around this hairpin, oil in the ground, bike came out from underneath me, and I slid down the road for a couple meters.
Was there was it steep drop-offs? Was there a barrier?
It was just before this Austrian town it's called Naunders, and I think it's quite a popular place with bikers. And after I came off, there was a group of Harley riders behind me. They all stopped, and my dad stopped at the road, dropped his bike, came running back, very protective. And it did hurt. I was more damaged pride than anything.
Yeah. How long was it before they all started laughing?
Well, no, nobody did.
Did they know it was that bad?
It was nice. So I got it. The V-Strom was fine, but my foot, I think I broke my metatarsal in my foot because it was really painful. But then we rode literally 100 meters up the road. My handlebar was slightly bent. We rode 100 meters up the road, and on the side of the road was a hotel with a biker's bar and a biker's garage.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we pulled in there. He was happy to fix the bike. I think he did it for free. And we stayed in the hotel and we watched, it was the World Cup.
Nice.
Yeah, Football World Cup. That wasn't going to be my favourite memory, but it's one that I'll definitely remember.
Yeah. Going to crashing and going to the pub, basically.
Yeah. But nice. It was what happened after that. And I know I'm probably dragging this out a bit, but we eventually on that trip, we went and did Stelvio for the first time. It was sensational. I was a bit nervous going around any bend after coming off.
Yeah.
We then continued on to, we were going to get back to Nice and have the bikes shipped back to the UK. Can't remember why. There was some reason for that. And just before Nice, we decided we wanted to ride the military roads. So around the Alps, there's loads of gravel military roads, which, they are what they say. They were roads that were built by the military to transport troops around the mountains. And they're still there today, and they're still rideable. And so we decided we want to do this one round a place called Tond, of the Col de Tond.
Yep.
And there's a big fort on top, which is really cool to go and see itself. But we decided we were going to ride this. I can't remember the name of the road. But we went down it, probably about 5 miles down, maybe a bit less. And my dad was in front, and he goes over this bumpy rock, and his chain snaps. Comes to a dead stop, and me and my dad, our toolbox is a mobile phone or a credit card.
Yeah, I've heard this explained to me when I joined ABR.
So we were pretty screwed. We had no tools or anything. And these military roads, they go through places where there's no towns or anything. We looked around, nothing for miles, deserted valleys, whatever. And my dad says, you've got to go and try and find someone to help us. So off I went, and I found this shepherd, lonely shepherd in the middle of this field on the side of a mountain. I went and knocked on his door. He came to the door, couldn't speak a word of English. Somehow I managed to gesticulate I need a rope for towing this Tenere.
What was the movement for the rope? How do you do rope?
And he was okay, and disappeared into his house and came back gave me this grotty, poo-covered rope.
I won't ask what the rope was being used for.
I was hoping it was sheep crap. So then I rode back to my dad. We took the chain entirely off the Tenere, and then I towed him all the way to the top of the pass we were on. First time I've towed a bike. First time I've been on an off-road mountain pass, and it was quite weird. Like the characteristics of a bike change massively when you're towing another bike.
I imagine,
but big drops on the side.
The plucky V-Strom 650
doing
the job.
Carried my laddie ass and the laddie ass of the man behind me. But we got to the top of the pass, and literally as we got to the top of the pass, the clutch on the V-Strom gave way.
Oh, no way.
It finally had enough. Broke down. We had no way of getting down from the top of the mountain. We didn't have phone signal or anything. So we decided to freewheel all the way down to a hotel we'd seen about 10 miles down the road, all downhill. So we freewheeled, rolled into the hotel. Hotel manager said, I can help you. He had this, within half an hour, he had a flatbed truck at the hotel, and they gave us a lift all the way to Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was amazing.
Bit of serendipity there.
Yeah. So
you did make friends on your trips.
Oh, I didn't speak to him. That was my favourite memory.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's many more, but that sticks in my mind more than anything.
Cool.
What about yourself?
Well, I'll keep mine brief now because that went on a
on
little
didn't
longer
I?
than I thought. I know. I've just got two memories, and very short ones. The first one I may have mentioned on a episode of The Garage before, which was the first time I went to the Alps with my wife, and we were on a Honda CB500X, 2-up, full of luggage. Cracking little bike. Recommend it as a bike to anyone out there. But not the best 2-up. Or full of luggage, long distance over the Alps, and mainly for a slight lack of power, and it's relatively small. Anyway, my wife wanted to go to the Alps. She was really looking forward to it. I don't think she knew what to expect, and as we went up our first mountain pass and then down the other side, all I could hear over the intercom was kind of these screams, like and just like constantly, and like, there's no why is there no barrier? Slow down, and just sort of absolutely terrified. But she took her helmet off at the bottom, and the smile on her face was like she'd just come off a roller coaster. It really was. So she absolutely enjoyed it. And I guess my other memory is just, it's nothing to do with riding really. It was just sort of the joy of freedom of motorcycling. Was that me and my mate Pierre are up the top one of the Alpine summits. I'm a bit rubbish at remembering them because they all kind of tend to blur into one when you're on a day in the mountains. We were sat there and we paid €11 for a plate of chips, which was obscene. So we only shared one between us, and it had been a really busy day, and the roads had been actually really busy with coaches, cars, like sports bikes doing what sports bikers do. We were sat there looking at Google Maps, and I was like, do you know what, mate? I've never been to Milan. Do you fancy going? And he was like, yeah, all right. Picked up the last chip. We went off, and then a few hours later, we were in the middle of Milan, kind of exploring. And it was just kind of, for me, that is just the joy of motorcycle touring, is be spontaneous, go and explore, and we had a really good night out. So, good days.
It's perfect. That going from one culture to another, I bet Milan was very different from what you felt and saw in the Alps.
It was actually completely empty. Really? We managed to arrive on, it was a Saint's Day or a celebration of kind of the Virgin Mary or something like that. It was explained to us. And so we just rolled into Milan, and these big, long, straight boulevards, kind of Roman style, completely empty apart from us on two CB500Xs and this guy on this big Harley, and we just seemed to be going through the city for ages, and then we found the centre and found a little bit of life. But good times.
What you said then just also reminded me of one of my favourite things.
We've heard very long.
No. This one I'm sure everyone will relate to. But when you stop outside an Alpine restaurant and just the smell of chips,
it's
a very distinctive smell of chips. It's the same with ski resorts. Anyway.
Nice. But so they have some great memories of the Alps. Was going to kind of take a look at the kind of the type of bike you might want. I think we can actually probably gloss over that quite quickly, because my answer would be any.
Yep.
Okay.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Any bike you want, you'd probably want to consider a bigger bike with better. I'll slow myself down to get from the UK to the Alps. There's a day, maybe 2 days riding on motorways and toll roads, which is just a long slog. If you're prepared to put up with that on any bike, then you'll have a great time.
No, I've done it on big adventure bikes, smaller adventure bikes. I've done it on a Triumph Bonneville. It was all very enjoyable to varying degrees of weather protection and whatnot. But I just think whatever bike you've got, jump on it. Jump on a ferry when we're allowed.
But here's a way not to cop out. What would be your dream bike to tour the Alps on?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. Now, I'm going to say this is what I usually do, which is I will get on a ferry from the UK and go across France, dip into Germany, maybe on the B500. B500. I love that road. B500. Oh, God, that is an incredible road. Yeah. If you're ever travelling to the Alps, you want to go through Germany, southern Germany, the B500 is
the Black Forest, right?
Oh, it's a joy of a road. But that's another story anyway. Oh, I don't know, because for the journey down, I'll take the biggest, most comfortable touring bike I could think, whether it's a Goldwing or an RT or something like that. I remember being stood by the side just past a toll booth on a French road, in the rain was pissing down, and me and my mate were shivering, and this guy rocks up in his RT and just ups his little electric screen and takes off, and the guy looked completely dry, you know. But in the Alps, I'd go for an adventure bike. Multistrada, that would be a nice one, and you'd also look good. I'd also go for my favourite bike of the moment, the KTM 790 Adventure, because that bike is just a huge amount of fun in the twisties as it is and everything else. But yeah, I'm probably gonna give a Multistrada a shout out there.
You did just cop out though. You've given me 2 bikes there. I said one bike
for
the going over and the riding round.
Oh yeah, well. Multistrada V4 S. Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
But I'm really not happy about choosing one, I have to admit, which is stupid because I'd choose the one in my garage if I was really going. Yeah. How about yourself?
I think I would go for, based on previous experience of doing it in the Alps on this bike, but the BMW S1000 XL. It's, just about comfortable enough for the ride over.
So you're going to have a sore ass by the end of that journey.
You get used to it. Like, honestly, the seat breaks you rather than the other way around. Yeah. Ooh. But you give it a few days and the numbness just gets rid of any pain. Yeah.
And I can imagine the sound of that engine in those mountain valleys and whatnot.
And just the performance of the bike going around these twisties is sensational.
Yeah. But, you know, you really can. If you've never been, don't be put off if you've got a Harley in the garage or a Fireblade or anything like that. You know, there's a load of sports bikes there. There's a load of cruisers. Just everyone comes together and has a really good laugh.
You see C90s up there as well, chugging along.
Yeah, no, you really do. So, that's the kind of bike you need. Any bike. But moving on. Briefly, we're just going to look at what experience do you need? Because some people, if you haven't been riding in the mountains before, you haven't left the UK before, you know, might be thinking, is this for me? Am I ready yet? What do you reckon?
I think, and it's based on my, you know, I just told you about crashing or coming off. I think, I you know, it's very irresponsible of me to say just go and suck it and see. You've got to have some sort of, I would say it's preferable to have experience, because on a lot of those mountain roads, it's just so open and exposed. Big drops, tight bends, steep inclines. That first time I went to the Alps, it was pretty terrifying.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of it, isn't it?
It was part of the fun, but, you know, the second time I went was, from an enjoyment perspective, better than the first time. And, you know, you got all these sports bikes and, other bikes just riding past you as fast as they can, wheeling and everything. It was really damaging for my confidence as a rider. But I think it made me a better rider. And like I said, the second time I went, it was just a blast. So I think I wouldn't pass my test and hop straight on the ferry to go to the Alps. I would probably have some experience under my belt first. But if you do, just take it easy. You know, it's easy to get caught up in the fast speeds of the other bikes.
The red mist. The red mist of the Alps. To be honest with you, I'm the same as you, and perhaps this is a little bit irresponsible. I don't know, but I took my first trip to the mountains. I actually went to the Pyrenees after saying that the Alps was the next logical step. But a mate of mine was going. He said, "Come along." I'd passed my test 3 months before, so I was like, "Yeah, fair enough." I went. Quite rightly, I was terrified and then excited in equal manner, but I had an absolutely brilliant time. And at the end of the day, they're just roads.
Yeah,
like they're twisty roads. Just ride to your ability, ride to your pace. You know, there will be a lot of other vehicles out there slower than you, and you know, if you're riding at the same speed as a camper van, ride at the same speed as a camper van and enjoy the scenery while, you know, keeping your eye on the road. But but that red mist does get hold of you, doesn't it? And I'm not a particularly fast rider. I don't ride sports bikes. I don't do track days or things like that. My favorite thing in the world is to travel by motorcycle. But yeah, when I get in those mountains, I sometimes have to stop myself from, you know, the only thing in the world I need to do is leapfrog that coach. I've got to leapfrog that coach. And actually, You really don't, do you?
No, not at all. And it's also very tempting when someone comes blasting past you and you think, oh, I'm going to show you. But I'm quite responsible. So,
Are you really? Really? Because that's not what I always see.
I stop myself, and I
because I've ridden with you a few times.
I'm perfectly responsible. I never ride outside my own limits, apart from in the Alps and on my first bend.
On your first bend, I do remember riding through Wales with you once, and I was following behind you, and I saw your rear end just slide out going around a bend.
Oh, that was on the gravel.
As it hit a load of gravel,
Yeah.
and I was just like in my helmet, shit. And you recovered it and it was fine. And then about an hour later, you stopped and wandered over to me. I was like, "Did you spot any gravel on the road?" I was like, "Yes, mate. You
maybe I need to
your bike."
maybe I need to open my eyes a bit more when I ride. But
Yeah.
I've got glasses now, so
Well, that's it.
that
That
could
will
be the
help.
problem.
Perhaps you should do that when you ride. Yeah, but no. Now we could talk about memories of riding in the Alps and how much we love it and various things for a long time. Perhaps that's another episode of the pod because. In this episode, we wanted to look at 3 routes that Bryn's actually put together for the latest issue of Adventure Bike Rider magazine. And we'll do that in part 2 of the ABR Garage. Welcome back to part 2 of the ABR Garage, and it's a special episode dedicated to riding in the Alps. Now, in the first part, we took a look at, what can you expect when you get there, the bike you should ride, and some of our memories of riding in the Alps, because I think it's safe to say it's probably a favourite destination for both of us.
Yep.
So in part 2, we wanted to look at a feature that we put in the latest issue of Adventure Bike Rider magazine. And actually, I'm not going to take credit for it here. Bryn has written a fantastic feature in the latest issue of ABR. And he's plotted 3 one-day routes, taking in some of the best roads, the best scenery, and some cool places to stay, and combining. I think the thing I liked about it most was combining some better known places and roads with some stuff that people may not have heard of. So even if you've been and you've ridden the Alps quite extensively, you might be surprised by some of the places you find. But before we go into it, I just want to let you know that if you'd like to read the full feature with GPX files, a map and waypoints for your sat-nav, you can find it in the latest issue of Adventure Bike Rider magazine, which you can buy at www.adventurebikerider.com/shop. So, Bryn, you had a blank canvas in front of you. I said I needed a story about the Alps, which is helpfully sponsored by TomTom.
Yep.
Whose sat navs that I don't know if I use whenever I go to the Alps. I don't know if you had as well.
Oh, no, exclusively. No,
it's pretty much, my TomTom pretty much is a prerequisite for me wherever I go anywhere in Europe. And, you had this incredible mountain range to choose from. Where did you start?
Ooh, I don't know.
All right, I'll give you a hint. So there are 3 one-day rides. Do you remember anything? What's your name?
The Alps.
The Alps.
Yes. So
you said a word to me, and a smile immediately came to my face. The Vaucours.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So essentially, let me just explain where the idea of free day rides came from. When we could have done free, all-encompassing week-long rides through the Alps. So I think the perfect tour in the Alps is taking in the whole of the arc of it, from sort of down in the Maritime Alps all the way up to and ending in basically Slovenia, in that far eastern side of the Alps. And I thought, how could I make a route that could take in all of the best parts of that and put it into the magazine? And I thought, there's no way I could really do it justice. So what I decided to do was come up with 3 day routes, sort of dispersed around the Alps, that you could add onto your tour if you're going to the Alps. Or say if you're going to the Western Alps, you could add the Vaucours route to your tour. Or if you wanted to make the most of them, take all 3 tours and link them up, and you'll have the making of an incredible week in the Alps.
It looks. Yeah. I'm tempted to go and do it, to be honest with you, because I've ridden a fair amount of the Alps, but linking these 3 routes, which kind of almost starts from kind of like west to east, doesn't it? That's 3 days of incredible riding, probably with 2 or 3 days of incredible riding thrown in between as well. Absolutely. You've got something fantastic, haven't you? Yeah. So the first route you picked was in the Vaucours, which is. Can you explain exactly where that is?
So the Vaucours is this. It's a massif in the French Prealps, so essentially the foothills of the Alps, which sounds a bit underwhelming when you say, when you've got the Alps there, you've got like the highest passes in the Alps, like the Col d'Iseran and the Col d'Izard and other big mountain passes like that. But rather than choose them, I decided to choose the Vercors Massive in the foothills of the Alps.
Some delayed gratification. Don't go straight for the big mountains straight away.
No, but you'll be glad that you did.
Okay.
Because this area of the Alps, of the Pre-Alps, the Vercors, is just a series of dramatic and sensational cliffs and gorges with, and you know, I called that day ride the tour of the most dramatic roads in the Alps.
Yeah.
Because think tiny roads clinging to massive cliff faces, big drops, balcony roads blown out through the rock faces, riding along the bottom of a towering gorge above you, and just it's a place to really be amazed by the scenery that you're riding through.
Yeah. And do you think a lot of people will probably miss out on an area like that because, well, you know, you've got the Stelvio Pass is calling, isn't it?
Exactly. And so where we actually, I don't want to say discovered, because there's people living there for.
Didn't Napoleon go over it at some point?
No. So where I found the Vercors or discovered the Vercors was in 2015. We were looking around online, and my dad actually pulled up this picture of this road, and it's a classic picture now. It's adorned the front cover of Adventure Bike Rider issue 30. You might remember that one. It's a classic picture of a motorbike going through this incredible rock arch with a huge drop from a cliff.
Yeah.
So we saw that and we thought, where the hell is that? We've got to go and get a picture like that for the front cover of ABR magazine. Did a bit of research. There was very little about it online. And we found out it was this road called Combe Laval in the Vercors, and that was it. We were off. We had to go and get that picture.
Yeah.
And so that's where I discovered the Vercors. And before then, I'm not going to take credit for the popularity of the Vercors by any means, but I would say before then, not a huge amount of motorcyclists from the UK would have heard of it.
Yeah. And I always, for me, it's perhaps a childlike thing, but riding those balcony roads with the arches and whatnot, it just makes me feel like James Bond.
Yeah.
It really just reminds me of any James Bond film you've seen with his car chases and whatnot. It's just so incredible. And there's something quite exhilarating about it, isn't there? It's almost, it sounds silly, but you're passing through nature.
Yeah.
And you can hear the sound of the engine vibrating against the walls.
Yeah.
And it's such an exciting feeling, isn't it?
It really is. And one of the most amazing things for me is just who decided to put a road there?
Yeah.
Like who looked at that cliff face and thought, yeah, that's a good place to put a road.
Blast something through there.
Yeah. I know Combe Laval, the famous road that I just showed on the front cover of the magazine, I'm pretty sure that was an old logging road. So I think that's where a lot of the history of the roads around there come from. But scattered throughout the Vercors, loads of these balcony roads. Some of them are closed now because of landslides, and they've just not bothered, but they've got tunnels which are more efficient than maintaining these balcony roads. But on this route, we start in a place just outside the Chartreuse Natural Park called Voiron.
I mean, it's like speaking to a Frenchman. It really is. Yeah.
And then we go through there.
Get your baguette and that pronunciation, you're away.
A beautiful road, balcony road, straight through the Chartreuse National Park, drop down into Grenoble, which is, I think there was the Winter Olympics might have been held there.
Yeah.
Seem to remember that. But then you go into the Vercors National Park, and every single road that I've chosen there is mind-blowing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
that's a little bit menacing. It's like Bond villain. And we're talking about the roads, is it a busy part of the world? What's the surface like?
No. So compared to the rest of the Alps, it's dead. There'll be a fair few people there on a sunny summer's day, but compared to, the Stelvio Pass, it's relatively empty. The roads aren't the best quality. Yeah. So they're quite potholed, very narrow. In a lot of places, only a car's width wide, which makes it very interesting when you come up against a car and you've got a tiny little wall about that tall separating you from a 1,000-meter drop.
I've always thought these barriers and mountains are absolutely effing useless, to be honest with you, for motorcyclists, because we're just
you go
stop the bike, but you'll go over the top of it, won't you?
Yeah, that's it. But people are very good at reversing around there. So.
Well, we talked about kind of experience of riding in the mountains before, and I guess we said, suck it and see and just go and ride to your ability. But actually, this does sound a little bit tricky. Do you think you should have a little bit of experience on this sort of road?
From a technical point of view, it's straightforward.
Yep.
The mountain roads that are there they're all you can't go fast on them. They're all very slow and single track, so you're very careful of where you're riding through. The one thing that is going to put a new rider off, or anyone who's scared of heights really, is the exposure on these balcony roads. It's a very special feeling when you stood or riding along these roads and you just look down and you think, oh wow, that's a long way down, and you hear a target fixation. Yeah, when you're looking somewhere and you go in that direction. Yeah, I've not heard of anyone actually riding off the edge of these roads, so it's not a common occurrence by any stretch of the imagination. And I think everyone would be fine there. Just have a head for heights.
Yeah. I'm just thinking it sounds like one of those roads which is incredible to ride, but I would hate to be a pillion. Just if you're not in control. Not that I ride pillion very often; it's an incredibly rare occurrence, but. I could just imagine being that close to the edge, but not being in control of where you're going. There's going to be a lot of trust there.
Yeah, definitely. But any pillion's got to have a lot of trust in their rider at any point in time. I guess. I've spoke to a lot of people at Motorcycle Live, or I've had a lot of emails from people thanking me for bringing the Vacors to their attention,
to the world.
Yeah, and quite a few of them are from pillions who have been taken there, and they've just been amazed.
They love it.
By it. Yeah. And I think it's a notch in any adventure bike riders or any biker's bedpost
You've got to get the picture, haven't you?
That's it, to get that picture.
To get that picture. It's got to be on your bathroom wall.
Exactly. And it's one of the most visually impactful places that I've been.
Yeah. I remember riding, it wasn't a balcony road, but I was riding a road in the Lake District. I was doing a UK route for ABR.
Exotic.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put it out there. I love the Lake District. It's got incredible riding in it. But I've forgotten what it was, the name of the pass. I didn't take the Honister Pass. I turned there's a church there. I turned left and it's got a memorial to Wainwright in it and rode this. And it's just a little kind of very narrow road that goes kind of up the valley side.
Yeah.
And it goes along it, and it's beautiful, but there is no barrier or anything like that. And if you come off, you're going to tumble down relatively far. And I just remember not thinking at all about it. And then my mate comes over the intercom, and he's like, "Yeah, bloody hell! If you come off there, we're all going to die, aren't we?" And it just must be that mindset, and having that head for heights and whatnot. It just made me think of that. And from then on, I really didn't enjoy riding it. I was just concentrating on not coming off the edge. Whereas to begin with, I hadn't even thought about it. No, but
it's funny in the Bolivia, I think it is. There's a road. Famous road.
Oh yeah,
Road of Death.
The world's most dangerous road.
Yeah, it's actually the nickname is the Road of Death.
Yeah,
Youngest Road, I think it's called. And that's just very narrow road, big drop.
Yeah,
but it's funny how a name changes the.
That's it.
Sort of
well, let's not
vibes.
rename Combe Laval or the Combe Laval.
I think so. It's Combe Laval. I've been confused about this for a while because there's no definitive name. You'll see it either called Combe Laval or Col de la Machine.
Ah.
And from what I gather, Combe Laval is this sort of, what do they call it? A cirque, I think. It's like almost like a natural amphitheatre of rock and formed by this river that goes through the bottom of it. And that's Combe Laval, this series of cliffs around there. And the road is Col de la Machine, I think.
I'm just when I edit this ABR garage, I'm going to get someone French to just overdub all our pronunciations.
That's it. I looked before. And apparently, it's Combe.
Combe.
Yeah, but I don't like the sound.
It sounds like my wife, very West Country. Yeah. No, it's incredible route. I think I remember. Is it about 140 miles, something like that?
Yeah,
around that length.
It's definitely a day doable in a day.
It's a day ride because the speeds are relatively low.
Yep.
And I guess you end up kind of somewhere that is pretty much a gateway to the larger Alps or the taller Alps.
Yeah, it can be. It's just again, pronunciation, but it's spelled die, which isn't the nicest place to go on a bike.
It's better on the road of death,
I'm guessing you
but,
pronounce it D, but it's on the very southern southern border of the Vaucours. And once it's not a massive place, but there'll be accommodation there. You stay there, and then you just head east for maybe an hour and a half, and you'll be on the Col d'Isran, Col d'Izard, and around there. But if you're going through the Vaucours, stop for lunch in a place called Pont en Royaume.
Nice, wow,
which is this wonderful village in the middle of this gorge almost. There's houses built onto the rock faces with running water underneath them. And the water is just so crystal clear. You look down on this bridge in the middle of the town and you can see these rock formations under the water, and there's people swimming in it and everything.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's perfect.
What did you have for lunch?
We didn't actually stop there. We did stop there, but not for lunch. I think we were on a bit of a rush.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think weirdly there's a water museum there. Wow. We were quite interested in going to the water museum, but it was shut.
Oh, so, no. There we go.
The history of water. Yeah. Exciting.
You always miss out on certain things in life. You can't do everything.
No.
There you go. But that takes us nicely on to our second route, which is a little bit further west.
East.
And interestingly, you, I was intrigued, a little surprised that you skipped a lot of the big name places. So immediately my mind would have gone to the Furka Pass, the Suston Pass, the Grimsel Pass, and things like that. But you've gone further east and taken in perhaps one of the most famous.
It's one I discovered.
One you discovered, yeah. But I don't know, what most argued about passes, is that the way to put it? The Stelvio.
Yeah. Famous for sure. I don't want to say controversial because it's not really controversial. Just people like to say it's overrated, don't they?
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Been there, done that. Yeah,
it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Got better passes just down the road.
Well, the reason I say it is because whenever we put an image of the Stelvio on, say, ABR's Facebook or Instagram channels, there's a lot of ill feeling towards it. Like it's, a lot of people say, it's not that good. There's much better passes around it. And I'm sure there are amazing passes around it, which you've highlighted in your route. But it's still a cracking road, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. If you were in that area of the Alps and you didn't ride the Stelvio Pass, you're doing something wrong.
You're kind of missing out, aren't you?
I mean, let's be honest, there's a reason why it's so popular. It's 75 hairpins. Some people like hairpins, some don't. But just the experience of riding 75 hairpins is something else. Hot dogs on the top.
Nice.
Bruno's hot dogs. Perfect. Bless you, James.
Excuse me, I'm getting so excited.
Oh, God, calm yourself down.
Hot dogs.
And just the scenery around there is something else. Huge mountains. The highest mountain in that sort of area of the Alps, Ortler, is, you see the perfect view of it from the summit of the Stelvio Pass. Incidentally, which I found really interesting, Ortler, that it's a big snowy mountain that you can see from Stelvio, is the just a bit of history for when you're there. There's on top of that mountain was the world's highest wartime trench.
Wow! I bet that was cold.
Yeah, there's an amazing picture online of just these. I think it was the Italians or the It was either the Italians or the Austro-Hungarians in this trench right near the summit with artillery guns. And you're thinking, geez, not fair play to them, but that's pretty
tough warfare.
Yeah, and as we'll see in the next route, there's more about that. But also, the Stelvio Pass is the second highest mountain in the Alps.
Yeah,
loses out by 7 meters.
Does it?
Yeah.
No way. What's the highest?
The Col d'Isran.
Yeah.
That's the highest pass. Some people will be saying that's not the highest pass in the Alps. It is. There's a higher road, the Chim. My pronunciation.
Really should have done a bit of research before recording.
It's either Sim or Chim de la Bonnette, and that's the highest road in the Alps. But it's closed. It's not closed. It
comes to an end.
Yeah, it's not a pass.
End. Yeah,
it's a circular route at the top. So with the Stelvio Pass being the second highest road in the Alps, great road, great scenery,
great hot dogs,
perfect reason to ride it. Why wouldn't you ride it?
And I think some of the infamy, I guess, I don't know, may have come because wasn't it Jeremy Clarkson in Top Gear that named it the best road in the world, did he, or something like that? Something like that. And I guess that's kind of the kiss of death for things. But I don't know. I just, as you said, I think often things become popular for a reason because they're good.
Yeah. Got an exception to that.
Have you?
Yeah, the Killers.
All right, yeah. This hasn't been raised in the pod before, but Bryn's got a weird aversion to the band The Killers, which I've always been quite a big fan of. But we're not going to go into it because it's just not worthwhile.
It's Mr. Brightside in particular. That's
it. You might think that we spend our days talking about motorbikes in the ABR office, but no, we spend our days arguing about Mr. Brightside. So, but anyway, I think if you're right, if you're in the area, why would you not ride it? It's just incredible. But sorry, go on.
No,
I just say there's more to this route than the Stelvio, quite rightly, because if we just put a picture of the Stelvio in the magazine, people might feel a little bit shortchanged. But actually, the route is stellar, isn't it?
It definitely is. Yeah. So what I was thinking when I put this route together was, if you're in the area, you've got to do the Stelvio Pass. But like many people point out, there are probably better riding passes. Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. I don't think there are. It's a very good riding pass. Yeah. But there are a lot of equally as good riding passes around the area. And so I've decided to base you in the town of Bormio, which is I think in the winter it's a popular Italian ski resort. There was the Winter Olympics.
And it's an architecturally beautiful little place, isn't it, in the hills? Yeah. It's a stunning place to be.
Old little Roman spa town as well, which is pretty cool.
So quintessentially Italian, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So you start in Bormio, get fuel in the morning. I recommend doing Stelvio Pass as early as possible. Less traffic on it. And
that is a good tip, isn't it? Yeah. And that's actually something we hear from a lot of people that do the Stelvio is, avoid the traffic.
Yeah, definitely. So do it early, get it done, out of the way, enjoy it. And then when you get to the end of the Stelvio Pass, you take a left and you head into Switzerland and to Davos. There's a really nice pass there. The name of it has just completely escaped me.
So we talking Maloja Pass, maybe?
No, it's... You'll put a little bit of text underneath. Right?
I will, filling in. I'll just get the French bloke to say it in his charismatic, sexy French accent.
So, you get to Davos and then you head south and you get to it's a tiny little village called Splugen. And from there is the Splugen Pass, which I mentioned at the start of this episode. It's insane. It's mental.
That was on the cover of a copy of ABR, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
37? Yeah, it was.
And I'll pop one up here in the video.
And that's me on the KTM 1190 on that picture.
That's the joy of editing a motorbike magazine, is you can put yourself on the front of it, which I haven't done yet, but you seem to have done a lot more of me.
Yeah, well, on the Vacors one, that's me again.
That is it, you as well. Yeah.
But the Splugen Pass is nuts. It's really a pass of sort of two halves.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit silly because everything is two halves. But on the Swiss side...
Half of a circle.
Half a circle.
Semicircle,
yeah, there's even a name for it. But on the Swiss side, you've got this... It starts off rather sort of innocuously. Just a nice, gentle road going up through this beautiful grass meadow. Then, almost out of nowhere... it's just bonkers series of 10 switchbacks.
Nice.
So close to each other, one after another. And you just riding it like, what the hell is going on here? It just doesn't make any sense, but it's just so fun to ride. It's like a ladder going up the mountain.
Yeah.
And then you get to the top of the Splugen, keep going, beautiful views as there are in the Alps. There's a ski resort called Medissimo where we stayed the night there. Really cool place to stay. Really quiet and just peaceful. There's a really nice river trickling through the middle. You have dinner by it and stuff like that. And then after that is the reason why I love this pass so much. It's a series of ridiculous bends going through tunnels with like wooden sort of like tops, I guess.
And it's the turns are about as sharp as kind of like packed together as you can possibly get, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. And they take you down this sheer cliff face, basically.
Yeah.
River flowing across the bottom, which you're constantly getting closer to. Again, like the Vacors route, you think, oh, crap, what would happen if I go off the end here? It doesn't help that there's tour buses coming up either. But, my God, you can stand on the top section of road and look down, and 30, 40 meters below you, it's still bending around, and you could, it's very steep, but so dramatic and just a joy to ride.
Yeah.
So you tick off the Splugen, and you get to a little town called Kiervenna. Again, might be pronouncing that wrong.
I think it's exactly right.
Yeah, thank you. And then it's on to the swanky resort of St. Moritz, which is where we're going to base you for the night. But before you get to St. Moritz, there's the Maloja Pass.
Yes,
which,
yeah.
To me, is like you get people who prefer sweeping bends.
Yep.
Where you can, get in a bit of a rhythm. But then you get people who prefer hairpin bends because they're a bit more technical and just, a bit different. The Maloja Pass has got both.
Yeah.
Have you ridden it?
I haven't ridden Maloja Pass, no.
Oh, it's it's really fun. It starts off long sweeping bends, and then just before you get to, well, not just before, but before you get to St. Moritz, it just rises really sharply over this pass. And it's like, if you look on a map, it's like a kid's got a crayon out, just going like that.
Well, there's a picture of it. The reason I was nodding, there's a picture of it in the latest issue of ABR magazine. It's one of our opening, in every issue we have an opening kind of double page spread to basically inspire people to go riding. And it's just one of the most picturesque and photogenic roads I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's picturesque, incredible, and then you get to the top of it, and there's this beautiful lake.
Yeah,
and you carry on along that to St. Moritz, which is, swanky and where the rich go.
Is it? Do you need a few quid to stay there, or are there various different options?
There's options for sure, but you're going to expect to shell out for drinks and
treat yourself to a steak dinner.
Yeah, I'd probably put a bit of money aside just to say you've gone to St. Moritz. It's where the celebs go in winter.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said about riding, kind of, some people like technical tight hairpin turns, some people like the rhythm, and having a pass that has both is just such an enthralling prospect. We spoke about I've forgotten what we said now, the B or the D500, the B500. Yeah, I have ridden it, honest. And the joy of that B500 road through southern Germany for me is that flowing rhythm you get into. It's fantastic, and that's not something you particularly have on a lot of mountain passes, isn't it? Really. No, I love the technical aspects of riding a road, that's wiggly and got hairpin turns. There's something so satisfying about nailing a hairpin turn, isn't it? Why? I don't know why. Why is it?
Well, I don't know. I do, whenever I do one and I do it really well,
it's
I look back and go, oh, yeah.
It's like parallel parking, isn't it? If you do a great bit of parallel parking, you look around to see if anyone noticed. So if my wife's in the car and I do it, I'm just like, I expect her to praise me for being manly or something.
Nailed it.
Yeah, that's it, nailed it. And that's something like doing these hairpin turns and getting them right is so satisfying. It's also quite important to get them right. I know you're right, I've got a fair few wrong. But with oncoming traffic and stuff like that, it can be a little bit hairy, can't it?
Especially tour buses.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth looking up the mountain before you go around a hairpin.
Yeah. And for some reason, I love riding up mountains more than I like riding down them. Why is? I think maybe because when you're down, when you're going down, you're on the brakes, I guess.
Psychologically, I find it very hard to get off the brakes when going down.
Yeah, I'd work on that if I was you.
I know I definitely need to because. It wasn't the Splugen Pass, but there was another pass in Switzerland just over from the Splugen Pass. I was on the KTM 1190 coming down it. I was I wasn't thinking about it, but I was on the front brake the whole time. And then we stopped for a picture, and then I went to go again, and the front brake it burnt out. It was completely gone.
Way.
Yeah, and so that's why you shouldn't have your brake on all the time.
No. I actually had that. I mentioned I was in Thailand before, and then one of the guys I was riding with just kept trailing his rear brake, and you can see his light on, and everyone was saying, "Oh, mate, you okay? Is there something wrong with it?" No, it's fine. Literally, I think it was 2.5 days. He burnt through his rear brake pad, and it's just So don't brake all the time.
No, I'm trying to train myself not to. I find myself, I don't even realize I'm doing it.
No,
yeah, it's just, I don't know, looking down and heading down. I feel like when you don't, you're kind of submitting yourself to. It just feels like you're not in control.
Yeah,
Gravity is the boss then.
Yeah, it depends how much engine braking you've got on your bike as well. I remember riding. This is where I struggle a little bit with automatic bikes. Obviously when you're going downhill a mountain pass, you're using a fair amount of engine braking, and that helps you get into a bit of a rhythm as well. But when I've been on an automatic bike, you don't have anywhere near as much engine braking, and then the thing bloody changes at a very odd time, and suddenly you think you've lined up this corner perfectly, and then suddenly you're either freewheeling or it's like as the engine braking kicks in. Like, no. So for your third route through the Alps, we've gone even further east.
Yep.
And I noticed you talk about your Holy Trinity. What's all this about?
Ooh. Yeah, so you've probably heard of the traditional Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
You didn't discover that. It's not like the cause.
I think I did. In my mind, you can have great motorcycling routes with incredible roads. You can have other motorcycling routes with great scenery, or you can have other fantastic motorcycle routes where you discover really cool places. Put all those three together, and you've got what I call the Holy Trinity of a motorcycle route.
Okay.
So for a route, in my eyes, to be truly world-class, it's got to have incredible roads. It's got to have sensational, breathtaking scenery that you can't help but look at. And then it's also got to have an element of, history or culture or something to discover while you're riding through it. Because part of a great motorcycle tour to me is pulling over and finding out something new, seeing something really impressive from the past.
Yeah.
And when you get those three things together, it really makes for a special ride. And one place in the UK that I think has all those things perfectly is the route from Tyndrum in Scotland to Fort William.
Yeah.
Going through Glencoe.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my God. The riding is incredible. It's very busy in summer. I'd probably go a bit out on the shoulder season.
Yeah.
The riding is incredible. There's a mixture of long straights, beautiful curves, but the scenery, my God, there's a corner you turn and just in front of you opens up this moorland. And then at the end of the straight, you've got the entrance to Glencoe, which is the valley. And oh my God, I can't even pronounce UK place names now, but there's a mountain on the left. I think it's called Buchael Etiv Moor.
Well, the attempt at a Scottish accent there as well.
Yeah.
From the Welshman.
But it's just, mountains in the UK aren't particularly high, but these ones are dramatic and brooding.
Well, with Glencoe, you've got the Holy Trinity, you've got the history, which is the massacre of Glencoe.
That's what I was going to say,
yeah. Sorry, go for it.
Jump ahead,
we can cut
James.
this.
But as you go through Glencoe, everything around you is just, I stop multiple times going through Glencoe just to sort of absorb it. And I could actually pull a deck chair out on that straight and just sit there looking at Glencoe for...
Better have some big luggage.
Yeah. But then what made it, I've been through it a few times and thought, this is a beautiful place. But then there was one time where I went through, I'd never really researched it before. There was another time I went through where I'd researched it before I rode through, just to see what the place was about.
Yeah.
And in the... I don't remember the year, but there was the Glencoe massacre there where...
I'm not going to help you because I was shot down earlier, so no, I have no idea.
I might get this right. I'm pretty sure it was the MacDonald clan got massacred by British soldiers. Long story, which I won't go into because...
It was some double crossing and some treachery and...
Something about signing a treaty before a certain date,
yeah.
and there was bad weather and he couldn't get there, and then they said it was fine, but then they came back and... But then all the clansmen just had to run off into the mountains in the middle of a cold winter's night. Loads of them died. There's a museum in Glencoe, which is fascinating to go to. But I actually rode through there unknowingly until I got there on the anniversary of the Glencoe massacre.
Yeah.
And it's said that on the anniversary, some people spot clansmen hiding behind rocks.
Nice.
Hiding from the Englishmen. But just knowing that as I was riding through it, the whole place took on a whole new sort of atmosphere.
Yeah.
It's weird. The atmosphere of a place based on the history that you know about it, to me, makes somewhere so much more special to ride through.
Oh, it brings places alive. I think it's why we the UK routes in ABR that we do 2 UK routes every issue in the magazine, and they're structured around great roads, but places to stop and
Yeah.
discover and learn and soak up, you know. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a 3-hour walk around a castle. It can just be, you know, I don't know, this is a spot where, you know, the last witch was hung in the UK or whatever, you know, things like that. It's a bit of history brings a place alive. So we've talked about the Holy Trinity. We haven't talked where it is, but I'm gonna burst that bubble straight away, because you know there's only one place you can pick to be your favourite with the Holy Trinity. Surely it's the Dolomites.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. If you've not been to the Dolomites, you have to go. There's no arguing. You've got to go.
I'm going to raise my hand here. I've never been. I've never ventured there.
Then you're missing out.
Yeah, I know. I'm a shadow of a man.
you go there and you'll be overawed by the place you're riding in.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that is because the Dolomites is it's a mountain range within the Alps in Italy, and I think a bit of it goes into Slovenia. It's characterized by these huge monolithic limestone rock faces that just rise up so dramatically from the landscape. Mountains in the Alps are typically quite dramatic in prominence and stuff like that, but in the Dolomites, my God, and you've not seen anything like it. It's
they're a different shape, aren't they? From the images I've seen, it's not your typical jagged mountain peak, is it? It's just
big ass rock faces.
Yeah.
With multiple fragments of it coming off, and you could. There's nowhere in the world that I've ridden that has made me pull over as much and just look.
Yeah, and
I've done. My dad has spent a lot of time climbing around the Dolomites doing via ferratas, and I've also done a few in the area. So via ferrata is it's Italian for an iron road, I think, and it's basically easy climbing routes along these rock faces. And so for me, standing on these roads, looking up at these rock faces, thinking about all the climbing that has happened on these impressive peaks, just adds to it. But yeah, this route in particular, we start in a town in the middle of the Dolomites called Corvara, and it's a brilliant place to stay because you're just surrounded by these really impressive mountains. I'm going to run out of words to use to describe them soon.
Magnificent, incredible, impressive.
Yeah.
You haven't used spectacular there. Go with it.
Spectacular mountains just surround this little village. So stop there, stay there for the day, and then in the morning you get to ride. It's called the Sella Rondo.
See, this is on my bucket list. The bucket list is long, but this is really close to the top, and it's very achievable.
Yeah, 100%.
Like four mountain passes.
Four mountain passes. Yeah. So you've heard of the carousel in Switzerland of the Susten, Grimsel, and Furka. The Sella Rondo is like that on maybe steroids. Yeah.
See, that's a pretty damn good ride, that carousel.
Yeah, but the Sella Rondo, it's called the Sella Massive, is this chain of mountains in the middle of the passes, which they circle. And I think the Sella Rondo is actually the name of a ski route, a ski touring route, which goes around them, but people name the 4 roads around it the Sella Rondo as well. And in order, you got the Campolongo Pass, the Pordoi Pass.
So I'm saying them right. It's like talking to an Italian. It really is. You sure you're Welsh?
The Sella Pass. Sella Pass.
That's it.
And then the Gardena Pass.
Yeah.
All 4 of those are just magnificent. You could ride those and you would have enough quality riding that you could just pack your bike in a van and go home and you'd be happy.
And so your route, is that the entire route?
No.
Take up that, so there's more to it. But could you, if you wanted to, do that loop and just loop around again?
Absolutely.
Do a board a day?
Yeah, so in the piece I actually said, if you do that route in the morning, the Sella Rondo in the morning, and you come back to Corvara, because Corvara is right on the Sella Rondo, you come back to Corvara, you could call it a day there, or you could go back around the Sella Rondo the opposite direction, come back to Corvara and make this route that I'm about to tell you into 2 days, and you'd have some of the best riding you're liable to have.
And it's amazing how going the other way actually can really change a road.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't quite know why, I guess. Yeah, but it can make it a completely different experience, can't it?
It definitely can, yeah. But for me, I would do the Sella Rondo, and then we go to, I've forgotten the name of it. It's San Cassiano. It's a ski resort. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. It's San Cassiano. Then we go over this mountain pass, which behind you is this really dramatic Dolomite peak called Countryne Spritz.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing
Do
well with
you
these,
know what?
aren't I?
I admire the fact you're still trying,
Yeah.
which I'm loving. So just keep at it.
Countryne Spritz. It's massive. It's hulking. It's.
I just want to see you ask an Italian for directions to these places and have the blank look on their face.
That's why I've got a TomTom.
That's it, yeah.
But no, we go there, and this is where the sort of historical element of things comes in. You know, we talked about the Holy Trinity, the scenery. The Dolomite has got scenery in abundance. The roads, Dolomites has got magnificent roads in abundance again. But then the history and the culture aspect of it, one that I find so immensely interesting, is that this area of Italy was sort of home to what they call the White War in World War One, between Italy and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And I urge anyone who's going to the Dolomites to read up about the White War before you get there, just so you can look at these mountains and appreciate what has happened there. Because by the sound of it, it is absolutely brutal what these people went through. You know, young Italian men against young Italian Austro-Hungarian men, Austrian or Hungarian men, fighting in the mountains, but not in the traditional way. They would rock climb up these peaks, set up artillery, set up machine guns, and then they would command that sort of area around that and cut off supply routes and stuff. So many men died there in either to the cold exposure, avalanches, falling in glaciers, or from enemy fire. And what they're finding now that the snow's melting and glaciers are retreating, they're just finding loads and loads of relics of this White War. So machine gun casings, you know, bones of humans, relics of time gone by. They're inside these. They cut out rooms inside these mountains, and when I can't remember the name of this glacier, but it retreated so much that it uncovered this cave cut into a rock, which was left exactly as it had been back in World War One when these men were living in there. You know, beds were made and stuff like that. There was the officer's desk in the corner.
Yeah.
I think they've made it into a museum now that you can go and see it, and it's just harrowing. There's a really good feature on the Smithsonian website about the White War. Definitely worth reading about. And there's this rock called the Castelletto, big old mountain, where there was an Austro-Hungarian machine gun encampment at the top. And the Italians had tried to displace them for days and days, and then eventually they decided to blow up the mountain.
Yeah, I've heard
They dug
about this.
underneath it,
Yeah.
put loads of dynamite or whatever they used underneath it, and just blew up the mountain. Crazy.
And it's so brutal, isn't it? Because even these places they're tough places to go for recreational rock climbers. You know, you're risking your life doing that to a certain extent, unless you really know what you're doing, and even then some. So, you know, to be doing it and blowing up the bloody mountain is just insane, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And that juxtaposition of, you know, knowing that it's got such a bloody brutal background with the natural beauty that the place has, it just makes the place special.
Yeah.
It's special enough just looking at it, but when you know the history of the place, it just takes on a whole other sort of form. But so we go past that anyway.
Anyway, past that, moving on. Stop if you want, whatever.
There's a few good things. There's a Fort Tre Sassi. That's good Italian pronunciation as well.
Yeah, I've stopped mocking you now. I feel sorry for you.
Just on the side of the road, which is worth seeing. But you go past that and down to Passo Rolle, which is a really fun ride. And it's the best thing about that pass to me is that you're riding underneath the huge rockfall of the name has literally just gone out of my head, but it's known as the Matterhorn of the Dolomites.
It's all right. It's in the latest issue of ABR.
Yeah.
So when
There's
you read
reason enough to read it.
Yeah, that's it.
This is this massive spire of rock which you ride underneath. The road goes right underneath it. There's a hotel. Again, the name of it is in the magazine. There's a hotel there with a terrace which you can sit and have a coffee on and just look at this beautiful peak. And then we continue on. Eventually, go almost double back on ourselves, but we don't ride the same road twice. up to Cortina di Ampezzo. That's better, wasn't it?
It was. I'm truly impressed.
And which is it's known as the Jewel of the Dolomites. Beautiful town. I think there's big gold reserves there or something. And my dad always tells me there's stories about there's more fur coats in Cortina than anywhere else.
Yeah. It's a pretty rich population.
Gives you an idea of what. And I guess rich people go to nice places. So
yeah.
There you go.
There we go. It sounds like an epic ride. Absolutely epic ride. Yeah. And sorry, is there more to come?
No. So that's where you stop for the night.
Yeah.
And then from there you can either head east into Slovenia, which is good fun, or you can make your way back home. But essentially, you link up these 3-day rides. Probably going to take about a week if you factor in time in between them, and you'll have, your mates will thank you so much for taking them on that ride.
That's it, and just don't tell them you bought ABR, so they'll just think that.
Tell them.
He's pretty knowledgeable about it.
Tell them they'll want to buy it themselves.
Yeah. No, it's just incredible riding. I think that was our reasoning behind. We teamed up with TomTom.
Yep.
To put this feature together was to come up with something that was taking the best, but would also offer something different. Yeah. And none of us know when we're going to be able to travel to Europe again. Fingers crossed that it's sooner rather than later. But when you do, if any of these rides, but if you combine the 3 into a tour, what a way to come back to motorcycle touring! It I think is a tour or a ride you remember for the rest of your life.
100%.
And it's interesting because you rode these roads, a few years ago now, but you can remember them with absolute clarity.
Yeah, definitely.
And you pronounce them so well as well.
I know, it's like I'm a local, isn't it? But it's a big responsibility saying to someone who's been locked up in lockdown for, best part of a year. Well, a year today, actually, now we're filming it. Being locked up for this long and hasn't been able to go abroad and touring, it's a big responsibility to say when you can travel, go and do this. But I wholeheartedly think that if you go and follow these day rides, you are going to be so happy.
Yeah.
So you can't beat them.
That's it. And Bryn's ridden all these roads as well. I've ridden some, but obviously not as many as you. But no, you've ridden them all. You know what they're like. You've ridden surrounding roads and these are the ones to cherry pick to really, really have the experience of, perhaps the experience of a lifetime.
Definitely. 100%.
Yeah. Nice.
I just want to go there now.
Well, that's it. I'm itching to get going. I thought you might bring out a little bit of poetry as well when you were talking about the Dolomites. But it's obviously the places that have moved you and stayed in your memory. So thanks for going through them with us. And as we've said, if you want to get your hands on the description of the routes, maps, waypoints for your sat-nav and GPX files that you can download straight to your sat-nav or your phone, it's all in the latest issue of Adventure Bike Rider magazine, which you can buy from www.adventurebikerider.com/shop.
Yeah, I'll say there, it's issue, if you're watching this in a year's time, it's issue 62. Issue 62.
It's this issue of ABR magazine. No, that's it. Yeah, no, good shout. And say, this is a special feature that we did with TomTom, but we have UK routes, European routes, and world travel features in every issue of the magazine. If you'd like to get your hands on those, particularly if you want to get hold of them immediately on your phone, your computer, or your tablet, you can sign up to the Adventure Bike Rider Digital Library, and you will get all 62 issues of the magazine. You're laughing at my...
Yeah, you're taking the piss out of my pronunciation of Italian words. You can't say tablet.
I can't do English. Tableau. Thanks for interrupting me there, Brent. No, you can get all 62 issues of ABR on your device immediately, and you can download it so you don't need an internet connection to read them after you've downloaded them, or you can read them online. All you need to do is go to www.adventurebikerider.com/shop. But I think for us, for now, that's left me excited yet frustrated. That I can't jump on a bike and head to the Alps immediately. Yeah. I'm going to go and find a French and Italian guy to come and overdub the pronunciation. And it's great. It was really interesting to hear about it. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Hi, us again. We're back. Just with a quick note to say, please do leave any comments, views, compliments, constructive criticism you might have about the episode. And if any of you guys have, ridden the Alps yourself and you've got any routes that you think we haven't looked at but would be great to ride, please do leave them in the comments section below. And also, if you've enjoyed this episode of the ABR Garage, please do subscribe. We'd love to let you know about when a new episode's out now. So that's really is everything from us.
Yeah, I'd like to hear how I got on with those Italian pronunciations. So if any Italians are watching, let me know.
I think there's going to be a deluge of not hate, but a little bit of ridicule. Anyway, cheers for watching.